America's missing gold. Now, what if I was to tell you that America has over 8,000 tons of gold? And this is meant to be stored in one of the most famous places in the world that we all have known about or heard of at some time in our lives. And I remember even from when I was a child, it was called Fort Knox. And I never really thought about what Fort Knox meant, but I knew it was something really big and it was some mysterious secret that we had in our minds as a child. Well, today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about some of the biggest cover-ups in history, but I'm also going to tell you about my own personal story about my Fort Knox that I was able to build for a short purpose and a short time, not realizing how valuable gold is. Even today, the value has not decreased. It has increased enormously compared to when I was doing gold many years ago. So stay tuned because I want to go through this story with you. So could you imagine, right? Back in 2008, whilst the world was in financial crisis, I found a way to make money by buying gold and silver, and I was selling it on eBay and refining it into gold bars and selling it for a profit. But today, I want to talk to you about something even bigger. It's called Fort Knox. Now, Fort Knox has gold audits, for example, and it also has hidden truths behind the global gold reserves. And I want to introduce you to the topic here and explain that this video really is to share my journey, but the lessons that I've learned and why gold is still the best investment today, along with the fascinating history that has been controversial surrounding gold. Even our president, if you're in America, they're talking about it. President Trump and Elon Musk are talking about this gold reserves and wants to introduce it to the world. So this is what this video really is about today, is for me to talk about this with you, because there seems to be this mystery. They seem to be thinking, well, where is this gold? No one's really seen what this gold is, what it feels like. Is it real? Because no one's allowed to go near the place, never mind inside. So I'll go back to my story though. So like I said, I started buying gold from eBay, carefully checking the descriptions and verifying the sellers. And also I purchased the gold and silver and I was testing it with the equipment. So I brought testing equipment, I brought scales. It didn't cost me much, probably a small set of gold scales, for example, as well as the testing equipment and the acid test. And that's how I really started doing this. And I also was able to expand my gold purchases internationally, including sourcing gold from India as well. Because back then you were able to, and let me tell you, the gold in India was like 22 karat gold, 24 karat gold. Whereas I was like dealing with, in the UK, 9 karat gold, 18 karat gold, for example. So the gold in India was more valuable, for example. So how did I manage to do this? Well, once I got the scrap gold metal, for example, I then turned it into gold bars. Yes, you heard me. I refined it into gold bars. So once I had the gold, I learned the process, and I actually took them to a company in London that melted the gold for me and put them into gold bars. it was such a fascinating thing to see and to hold in my own hands, you know. It seemed really unreal. It was in a very famous place in London, known for wealth and health and banks and things like that. So as I was coming out of this place, I had to sign to say that, you know, I've got the gold, for example. And, you know, we got out and we were like, me and my husband, we were like, we need to get in the car quickly because we just felt as if, you know, someone could come and rob us, for example. So I then started selling these gold bars at a profit. So I'd get the scrap gold and then I would turn it into gold bars. And then I would then from there sell it online, for example, for a higher price. So storing gold in England was, you know, it was so amazing. It was in one of the wealthiest gold storage locations. And since gold was crucial and still is now, I stored my gold in, really, I did it at home, but also you can store it in the lockable vaults that they have where public gold storage is available and still is even today. So every time I needed to withdraw, I was doing it, but I had to travel all the way to London. I thought, no, this is just getting too much. So we got a vault, for example, and then we put the gold in there. For example, it was a lot easier to get hold of as well, although they could post it to us as well. And I'm not saying I had like Fort Knox. It was nothing like that whatsoever. It'd be like, say, four bars of gold. You know, they were about, you know, oblong, about that thick, for example. And, you know, they were very, very profitable, should I say. Now, let me go further into this. Now, I'm telling you this because I'm really saying to you, maybe you should start looking into this now, for example. So selling gold bars and making a profit is definitely a way to go because it is always going up. It's not going down. You're not going to lose your money. They always say that it's liquid cash, really, gold is. So gold prices began rising and I was then able to sell my gold bars for a higher price. I used multiple selling strategies, which included private buyers as well as online platforms. I even had a website, which was, I used to do things for, I would say, I'd call it a gold party, for example, where people would, you know, you'd have a little party and then people would bring their scrap gold, for example, and you give them a, you know, a little something for it, for example. So what was the lessons learned about the market timing and why gold is so valuable? So the truth, really, let me go back to Fort Knox and the gold reserves here. So gold reserves and wars, for example, how gold has been used in times of war to finance military efforts and economic recoveries as well. So the 1974 Fort Knox gold audit, it was highly publicized event where officials inspected stacks of gold but they didn't test it though. They didn't test it. But yearly audits are being done at Fort Knox, for example, the gold audits, and it's highly publicized event where officials inspected these stacks of gold, but like I said, they didn't test it. So the US now conducts sample audits to verify the amounts and also the purity of the gold in storage currently at the moment. So in 2017, the public visit to Fort Knox, the first time in decades, the US allowed outsiders to view reserves through transparency remains limited, very limited. So there were trade wars and global gold movements, banks across the globe, including England as well, transported gold bars to boost their markets and stabilize the economy. Did you know this, for example? So, gold leasing and liquidity. How central banks lease gold to generate interest, for example, making it a financial tool. So, Trump's tariffs, for example, and gold prices, recent tariffs have increased the cost of gold transactions, making gold more expensive in New York than in the UK. So it depends where you are around the world. The gold can be cheaper, for example. So Elon Musk, he talks about this, doesn't he? Pushing for the gold audit. So Musk has called for a full audit of the Fort Knox gold, raising new questions, for example, about the transparency and what truly is held in the reserve. Is gold worth more in the USA or the UK, for example? Exploring these price differences between the global gold markets is key, and how international trade impacts gold valuations. So they are gold backed currency discussions, like, for example, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, for example, BRICS, working on an alternative financial system to possibly bypass the US dollar, and how this might affect the global gold reserves, for example. So, why is gold still the best investment today? So, governments and wealthy investors continue to buy gold as an edge against inflation. The US gold reserves, for example, undervalues on paper at $42 per ounce, while the market price is over 2,900 per ounce. Well, actually, when I did it today, it said 3,000 per ounce, for example, dollars. So the potential gold packed digital currency could change the way gold is valued and used. So, how do you start investing in gold today? Well, start looking at buying physical gold. That's what I did. I brought physical gold from either dealers or sellers, or even, hold a party, for example, and ask people to bring their scrap gold. Like, there could be an earring that's missing another earring, so they could find scrap gold that's no good to them because they don't have the other part to it, for example. That's how I started, for example. And then you can also get it turned into gold, have it melted down into gold bullion, for example. And there's banks and there's vaults to secure, but you also can have home safes as well for this, because that's more less expensive for you, but also you can get hold of it whenever you need to, rather than having to travel all the way to a bank and then you got to get them to open up the vault, sign for it, and then put a big record of what you're doing, for example. So with regards to testing the gold, some tips here is use some kits. There's some gold testing kits that you can purchase along with the scales as well. When you're shipping, always track international shipments, but also track the international gold prices as well, so that you understand how the tariffs and economic shifts impact the gold value in different countries. So I wanted to really go through that with you because my journey at that time was really exciting, and I was holding various gold parties around the UK at the time, and I was getting people to come, and then, or I would go to theirs and someone would bring scrap gold that they don't use because they've lost a piece of an earring or something, or something's broken off, so it's no good, it's not they're not able to use it. So then I would come with my scales and then I would weigh it and I'll say, oh yeah, I would have my calculator and I'll say, right, okay, yeah, this is worth about £3, for example. And they would bring, quite a few things that wasn't any good to them, for example, broken bits of jewelry, one earring because they'd lost the other, or even an earring back, all of these things would add up, for example. And then I would then say, right, I'll give you this amount for it. And I would come out with like a bag of gold. I felt like that I was, very wealthy, for example. But yet I paid, it was scrap. Gold, for example, and silver as well, I used to purchase as well from people. And that's what I did. One of my side hustles that I did that I've never really spoken about here on YouTube, but it really does work, because at the end of the day, you can always use that gold bar, for example, and trade that for money, for example, or sell it, for example. So maybe it's something that you might start looking at, because even Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they're talking about the gold reserve, seeing what's there, because what used to happen and what possibly could be happening is that they're perhaps taking it and sending it to other parts of the world, for example, because England, they've got their gold reserves, so's America, etc. Maybe they give each other a loan through gold bars, for example. And I'm just giving you some examples here. But gold is not depreciating in value. It will always go up, because when I got it years ago, and I'll have to look at my old receipts, for example, it wasn't this much. It was very, very low back then. But now it's really gone crazy price wise. So it's something that you would think that you didn't think about. Maybe this could be used in a valuable way. Even if you've got pieces of gold that you're missing something from it, so it's not a match anymore, you can't use it. What are you going to do with it? That's a way of getting some extra cash in for you at home, for example. So I want to ask you a question. Have you ever thought about investing in gold? I'd love to hear your comments in the section below, and I'd love for you to subscribe if you found this helpful, because I'm going to be talking more about some financial tips and wealth building strategies. Although this might be small, you will be surprised if you really get this going, what a good investment that this could be for you and your family, for example. So imagine that you've got scrap gold, you get it melted down, and then it comes in a block. You pick it up, for example, and then you're then able to sell it at a higher price, for example. How cool is that? If you did, like 4 blocks, 4 bullions, a month, for example, that's going to be extra income. It could bring in an extra 3,000 a month. I'm going to look into this myself, because it is something that is profitable. It was for me and my husband many years ago when we started doing it, when the children were young. So it's something that I'm looking at getting back into, and maybe it's something you may want to get back into it. So let me know in the comments if you'd like to see, how it's done, for example, and I'll do a video showing you how you can find this type of gold, for example. And then obviously then I can do another video about how to get it melted down, for example, what procedure that you need to do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. So my next video might not be the next video, but I'm going to be doing a video on how to safely buy gold in today's market without getting into any difficulty. So I hope that that was helpful for you today. Thank you so much. I am going to be going live tonight on a different subject, but I wanted to talk to you about the gold and how, and will it be there when Donald Trump and Elon Musk go to the Fort Knox? Will this gold still be there? Because, you know, Donald Trump talks about that the gold may be gone for all he knows. Elon Musk talks about, you know, they don't know whether, you know, what type of testing gets done on it and how much tons of gold is still around and available, for example. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video today, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. And this is how I turned my eBay gold business into gold bars, and I built a business from it. And that's the truth that I'm telling you. But I also spoke to you about Fort Knox gold, and I'm really interested to see how this pans out when they do visit Fort Knox as well. And I'm sure you will be too as well. So thank you so much and have a wonderful evening, and I will speak to you later. Take care. Thank you. Bye.